Hey guys, welcome back to the Tuesday tipping videos. Dane here from Clarkey's NRL column. This is a weekly series, guys, where I'll go over all my tips of the round and tell you why I'm making my predictions as well as how much. Hope everyone's doing well. With that being said, let's crack on with it. So we've got the Storm versus the Tigers to start us off, guys. I like the Storm here. Now, both teams are coming off phenomenal performances from the Magic round. Although I do feel the Storm played probably more of the game. And what I mean by that is the Tigers had a very great first 40, but their second 40 they definitely slackened off. The Melbourne Storm showed an ability to play out the full 80 minutes, and I do think Amy Park is a genuine home ground advantage. It's one of the hardest grounds to travel and win to, as most NRL players will tell you. So with that being said, I'm going to tip the Melbourne Storm by 8 points. Panthers versus the Warriors. Really tough one to tip here, guys, but I will go with the Warriors. Now, I understand Panthers are desperate to revive their season, but they needed to be desperate for the past fortnight. They haven't been, and especially last week against the Tigers, I thought that was completely lackluster. And again, there was a distinct lack of effort and intent on the side of defense. And when you don't really have your defense short up against the Warriors, that's when they're most dangerous, because we know they're a side that loves to throw the football at the back, throw an offload. You factor in as well, Nicorima's had another week to continue to build his cohesion with the rest of this spine. A spine consisting of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Cody Nikorima, two players who aren't afraid to take that line on, is very dangerous if you don't have your defense sorted, and the Panthers do miss the most tackles in the entire competition. So I'm going to go the Warriors by 6 points. All right, Broncos versus the Roosters. Now, Broncos got the win last weekend, guys, but as I said, I suspect these wins are sort of going to be coming a little bit sporadically for this club, as they do have quite a young side. We know the mental aspect of rugby league is so important, and it is hard to get yourself ready to go week in, week out. But what we have here, guys, is the most inexperienced halfback in the NRL, Tom Dearden, coming up against not only the most experienced halfback, but the second most experienced NRL player of all time, Cooper Cronk. When you put those two together, experience is huge in rugby league. Further to that, as I said, the Broncos have been a little bit inconsistent this year, whereas the Roosters have been rock solid. Last game, they had key injuries across the entire park. They hung on to win. They've been without Jake Friend and Cooper Cronk at stages throughout this year, and they still looked phenomenal. With all that factored in, guys, I'm going to have to go the Roosters by 10 points. Titans versus Bulldogs. Now, Titans are my team. And when I look at these two teams and sort of assess them and break them down, realistically, I believe we're looking at two teams that aren't quite ready to compete come September. I don't think any of these teams are a genuine premiership threat, even if they were to slip slightly into that top 8, maybe 7th or 8th place there. That being said, I'm probably just going to lean with my heart here because it does seem pretty even on paper and pretty even on performances throughout the year. Now, I do think if the Titans are able to string together an 80-minute performance at home, they are slightly classier than the Bulldogs. But that being said, guys, it's a tough one. I'm prepared to eat my words, but I'll go the Titans by 2 points. All right, Eels versus Cowboys. I've got to take the Eels here. Now, we saw the Tigers bounce back from a huge loss earlier this year in just 1 week. Ironically, that loss was to the Eels. Now the Eels are in the same predicament, and I suspect the Eels will be able to do the same thing and have that come back within a week. That loss at Suncorp Stadium, factored in with the re-signing of their head coach, Brad Arthur, I think that'll really galvanise their squad, and they're going to come out and play their best football. If they're able to do that, from what we've seen so far in 2019, the Eels' best football is more classier than the Cowboys' best football from what we've seen. With that being factored in, guys, I am going to go the Eels by 10 points to win this one. All right, Raiders versus Rabbitohs. This is another great game. How about the Raiders, though? Back-to-back, they take on two of the premiership heavyweights, the Roosters and now the Rabbitohs. Now, they almost upset the Roosters last week. I don't think they'll be able to upset the Bunnies here. I think that game would have taken a lot out of them mentally and physically against the Chooks, but they are a good chance. Look, guys, I'll be honest. If Bateman was here, I'd probably tip the Raiders. I'd love to see Bateman versus Burgess for the King of England, but we'll have to wait to see that one. Because Bateman's out and they did have such a physical game the last week, I'm leaning towards the Rabbitohs here. So I'm going to go the Rabbitohs by 1 point in a close one. Knights versus Dragons, guys. Potentially two Origin halfbacks there, Ben Hunt and Mitchell Pearce. Now, I like the Knights here for an upset. I'm a little bit surprised they're an outsider's chance on the market, especially when you consider both Corey Norman and Gareth Widdop are out at the moment for the Dragons. That leaves them with one game manager, Ben Hunt, and he was superb for 60 minutes last week, but the last 20 was poor. When you come up against a side like the Newcastle Knights and what we've seen from Pearce the past 3 weeks in particular, he is able to control that game for the entire 80 minutes. And by Pearce having that game management in control, it allows players like Ponga to inject themselves when they wish, and not realistically forcing themselves into a backline or forcing a play because it needs to be done. My example was last week. Ponga's epic step against the Bulldogs to step through and seal the deal for the Knights. I do think Jai Field looked great at 5/8, but again, the Dragons at the moment only have one genuine game manager, Ben Hunt, and he hasn't always been able to manage for the full 80 minutes. It'll be close, but I'm going to tip the Knights by 2 points. Last game for the round, guys, the Sharks take on the Manly Sea Eagles. Sharks should win this one. Now, Manly are still ravaged by injury, and not just injuries around their forward pack and their backs, also around their spine. Now, Dylan Walker will be returning here. I'm not sure if he'll go to centre or potentially 5/8 because they do have a bit of a problem at the moment in the halves as far as injuries are concerned. But look, guys, what's making me lean towards the Sharks here? It's at PointsBet Stadium. They've beaten the Storm at PointsBet this year, and they've looked pretty well in all of their home games so far this year. I suspect everyone in the Shire is going to be out on the hill this Sunday at 4 p.m, and it's going to be a genuine advantage for the Sharkies. So I'm going to tip the Sharkies by 6 points. So there you have it, guys. That's my tips for the upcoming NRL round 10. We're almost 2/5 of the season complete. Thanks so much for watching my video, guys. If you want to comment your tips in the comments, feel free to do so. And let me know whether you agree or disagree with some of my tips, and we'll start a bit of a debate. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Set of 6 podcast.